Test 1, 2. Hello, 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 everyone. How are you all doing today? Trying to not jump scare people, as some people have said. Trying to give as much of a warning shot as I can, I suppose. Yes, I do know this is far earlier than some of my other streams. I decided to do it when activity is typically most occurring throughout the day, because the majority of people watch videos at around 2 p.m. And also, last night I was not only not ready, but Ellis was streaming at midnight, so I didn't want to interfere with their streams. But anyways, I do see people are hearing me. Let me just take a look here. The people asking how I'm doing. I'm okay. Could be better, could be worse. Working out some thingies on my side. Not sure what to do for the next video, to be honest, so I figured I would do a stream because I have to actually take some time to get some collabs done, and the collabs are stressing me out to no end. So, am I safe, sir? Yes, I am safe. Well, as safe as an SCP can be. Is my soul taken? Wouldn't you like to know, Satan? Anyway. Alright, so I do want to get this started, but I also don't want to move things too quickly, since I don't imagine this will take as long as the other streams. But if anyone does have any SCPs that they would like me to read off, I'll explain more as to how it works for anyone who doesn't know later. But if anyone has any submissions, I'll definitely be more than willing to read those over. I did see some people talking about SCP-999. That will be one of the ones I'm reading. I'm reading some of my favorites and some new ones that I found on the SCP Wiki. Thank you, Cool Gamer. Take a look here just to make sure I'm not missing anybody. SCP-3137, the Minty Boy. I do be a leaf. 426 I'm seeing. Let me actually take a look. I'm curious which one 426 is, because I may or may not have already picked that one, but let me double check. Do I have a favorite SCP? So I'll probably be going over my favorites as I go. Okay, let's see. 426 I'm seeing. I'm also seeing 2295. I was going to have a 173, of course. That's a classic. I gotta do that one too. But yeah, I was, oh God, what was I saying? I don't even remember what I was saying. Frig. Oh well. Oh yes, I remember now. So, I was originally hoping to have a chat box on the screen so I could see it as it comes up, but instead I'm just using my phone. I may have to find a way that I can, because I currently have it on my mouse pad, but I need to move my mouse pad under my mouse so I can actually do that. But if I do that, then my phone might fart mid or vibrate midstream, and that might jump scare the hell out of people. So give me 1 second. I'm just trying to take a look to see if there's anything. I have some tissues. Let me try that. I'll just ball up a couple of tissues under. Yes, I always say my phone farts whenever it vibrates, because, like, oh God, it is the worst. But yeah, so to answer the question of what's my favorite SCP, I will be getting to that later on and kind of discussing as I go. All right, I'm seeing plenty of suggestions, so thank you for those. Let me just... This one is 426, 173, and 2295. I'll take more requests as we go, just to make sure that I'm not keeping things held up. All right. Okay, so I suppose we should get into this. You guys ready? Let me take a look here. SCP-001, the Gate Guardian. See, the problem is that most people can't decide what an SCP-001 should be. But mayhaps. Alright, let me fade out the music and swap to something a little more ambient. Oh, but first, I gotta jump scare y'all, so, blah, blah, blah. I'm Gengar, not Ditto, blah, ghost type Pokemon, blah. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into something actually spooky. Alright, so, turn up the music a little bit. Don't want to be too loud. There we go. Alright. Okay. Oh, that's why I wasn't looking at my live stream, I was looking at the live chat. Alright. So, allow me to explain what an SCP is and how the SCP Foundation operates. Before I begin, I have to say that the following stories that I will be reading do contain disturbing as well as potentially violent content. There may be some other more specific trigger warnings, depending on the stories that are being requested or that I will be reading, and unfortunately, it's a little difficult for me to read off trigger warnings as we go. Therefore, I do suggest you use your own discretion as to whether or not this stream is something for you. Now, what is an SCP? An SCP is, well, it's a couple of things. It's the slogan for the SCP Foundation: Secure, Contain, Protect, and it also stands for Secure Containment Procedures. An SCP is classified as any sort of supernatural or paranormal phenomenon that can't be explained. It was stumbled upon by accident, or perhaps even created in some instances, and because of these anomalous qualities about it, they have to be contained for protection. SCPs are divided into 3 categories. The first category is the safe category. It should be noted that just because an SCP is classified as safe, that doesn't mean that it can't have the potential for great harm. An SCP that is classified as safe is one that is relatively risk-free to contain. It may be able to do damage, but as long as you're smart enough to keep it locked away, or to handle it with great care, then you should be fine. The next category, however, and one of the more popular ones, is the Euclid category. SCPs that fall under the Euclid classification are ones that are a little less predictable, a little more mysterious, if you will. They're not fully understood, and thus much more difficult to contain. They are not as dangerous as the third and final class, but special containment procedures must still be adhered to ensure everybody's safety. The final one, depending on who you ask, is pronounced either Keter or Keter. I'll be pronouncing it Keter, but if anyone has any issue with that, do correct me. The Keter class is the most dangerous form of SCP, whether intentionally hostile or simply that its very state of being can pose a large threat to humanity. and possibly even cause end-of-the-world scenarios. That said, this requires strict protocol to adhere to in order to ensure, again, the safety of everyone, not only at the Foundation, but for the rest of the world. I've selected some of my favorite SCPs today, some of which are going to be safe, some of which will be Euclidean, and others will be Keter. I tried to mix up the more neutral, palate cleanser, safer ones with some that have a little more thrill to them. Anywho, without further ado, I propose we get started. The first SCP I will be reading today is one of the most iconic. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention one thing. If you would like to follow along with me at any point, or want to request a specific SCP to be read, you can find a list of all SCPs on the SCP Wiki, not to be confused with the wiki that is used for the SCP Containment Breach or Secret Lab video games. But yes, this is the site I will be reading from, and with that, let's go right into it with one of the most popular SCPs, SCP-049. Object Class, Euclid. There are a list of special containment procedures, as well as temporary containment procedure updates. We will be skipping over those for brevity. Let us begin with the description. SCP-049 is a humanoid entity, roughly 1.9 meters in height, which bears the appearance of a medieval plague doctor. While SCP-049 appears to be wearing the thick robes and the ceramic mask indicative of that profession, the garments instead seem to have grown out of SCP-049's body over time, and are now nearly indistinguishable from whatever form is beneath them. X-rays indicate that despite this, SCP-049 does have a humanoid skeletal structure beneath its outer layer. SCP-049 is capable of speech in a variety of languages, though tends to prefer English or medieval French. While SCP-049 is generally cordial and cooperative with Foundation staff, it can become especially irritated, or at times outright aggressive, if it feels that it is in the presence of what it calls the pestilence. Although the exact nature of this pestilence is currently unknown to Foundation researchers, it does seem to be an issue of immense concern to SCP-049. SCP-049 will become hostile with individuals it sees as being affected by the pestilence, often having to be restrained should it encounter such. If left unchecked, SCP-049 will generally attempt to kill any such individual. SCP-049 is capable of causing all biological functions of an organism to cease through direct skin contact. How this occurs is currently unknown, and autopsies of SCP-049's victims have invariably been inconclusive. SCP-049 has expressed frustration or remorse after these killings, indicating that they have done little to kill the pestilence, though will usually seek to then perform a crude surgery on the corpse, using the implements contained within a black doctor's bag it carries on its person at all times. While these surgeries are not always successful, they often result in the creation of instances of SCP-049-2. And as an aside, when something says -2, that indicates that the entire SCP is considered to be 049, but the Doctor is a separate entity from, well, we'll get to that. The Doctor is considered SCP-049-1, and as for SCP-049-2, they are instances of reanimated corpses that have been operated on by SCP-049. These instances do not seem to retain any of their prior memories or mental functions, having only basic motor skills and response mechanisms. While these instances are generally inactive, moving very little and in a generally ambulatory fashion, They can become extremely aggressive if provoked, or if directed to by SCP-049. SCP-049-2 instances express active biological functions, though these are vastly different from currently understood human physiology. Despite these alterations, SCP-049 often remarks that subjects have been cured. Addendum 049.1 Discovery. SCP-049 was discovered during the investigation of a series of unknown disappearances in the town of Montauban in southern France. I apologize to any French speakers in the chat. During a raid on a local home, investigators found several instances of SCP-049-2, as well as SCP-049. While law enforcement personnel engaged the hostile 049-2 instances, SCP-049 was noted as watching in the engagement and taking notes in its journal. After all of the 049-2 instances were dispatched, SCP-049 willingly entered Foundation custody. There are later logs of interviews, which you can either read or listen to for yourself at, again, the SCP Wiki. Let me take a look here and just make sure. The rest of the article dictates a number of addendums related to observation notes, as well as conversations with SCP-049. Some of which end in tragedy, and others are neutral in nature. Quickly taking another look here. Well, that's all of the juicy bits about 049 that's left. There is one incident report, though, if you would like me to read that as well. Actually, let me just go ahead and do that. Incident report SCP-049 with Dr. Theron Sherman, Site 42. Begin log. Dr. Sherman, I need you to explain yourself. SCP-049, you are being directed to explain your actions, and I will remind you that failure to cooperate will result in further restrictions during your containment. 049.
My actions do not need to be explained.
You killed Raymond Hammond and then butchered him until he...
Not dead. No, not dead. He is cured.
Cured of what?
The pestilence, sir. I thought you, at least, would realize what luck it is I detected it before.
What pestilence? You keep going on and on about this pestilence, but you have not once been able to properly identify this disease. What could you have possibly seen in him today that you could not have seen so many times before that it could be worth his life?
The pestilence presents and progresses in unforeseeable fashions. It has a queer way of creeping into the unprepared. And call it what you want, Doctor. It was a mercy I did to him. He is cured.
He is a vegetable.
I would not expect you to understand. You and your ilk have proven time and time again to not be men of science, but men of emotion. You cannot appreciate the horrors I've seen. Those many millions who have succumbed to the pestilence and been changed, who...
Your cure cost Ray his life.
No, sir. I have saved it. You would allow this world to slip back into the despair of disease and death, ignoring that I've created a miracle.
And what disease? What pestilence? He was a healthy man. He was a good doctor.
I'm offering it freely to the afflicted. You are not worth this argument, sir. You are short-sighted and foolish. Dr. Ham was sick, and I cured him. I am the only one who can do this. My work must continue. There is still so much to learn, so much to...
I've had enough of this. Consider your allowances revoked. Welcome to Containment 049.
We're done here. Do. And others can be saved. Even you, though you do not deserve it, might be saved. I can save them all. I can cast down this plague once and for all. I can do this. Only me. I saved him. Dr. Ham, I cured him. He was sick. I know he was sick. I know he was. And you are all sick, but I can save you. I can save all of you because I am the cure.
End log. And that is the end of the 049 article. There is a follow-up post-incident report review, though it is not as interesting. Well, that's the first one anyway. I hope you enjoyed that. But let's move on. Should we go up or down in tone, do you think? Do we want to do something a little more extreme? Or something a little more safe? Alright. I'm seeing extreme. Let's do it. We'll move on to our first Keter class. This is another well-known SCP. Formerly classified as safe, we will now be reading over SCP-1048. Object Class Keter. I believe that this time it is important we read over the Special Containment Procedures. Special Containment Procedures. The whereabouts of SCP-1048 are currently unknown, though it is still believed to be somewhere in Site-24. Subject is to be secured for containment, but any creation of SCP-1048s should be destroyed on-site unless further evidence warrants less extreme actions. No teddy bears are to be allowed in Site-24 to prevent any confusion or mistaken identity. Any object that resembles a teddy bear is to be reported to the security team immediately. Description: SCP-1048 is a small teddy bear, approximately 33 centimeters in height. Through testing, composition of the subject revealed no unusual qualities that make it discernible from a non-sapient teddy bear. Subject is capable of moving of its own accord and can communicate through a small range of gestures. The subject regularly shows affection to individuals in ways found endearing by most people. Affection is usually given in the form of a hug to the lower leg, but subject has also been observed dancing, jumping in place, and in 2 separate events it has even drawn childlike pictures for janitorial staff. All Foundation personnel that have interacted with the subject have responded positively to its affection, even D-Class with normally sociopathic tendencies. Attempts at direct communication with SCP-1048 have not been considered successful. Though it is capable of simple gestures to indicate a yes or no answer, it will often not react to lines of questioning concerning its nature or where it originated from. It is not known if this is because SCP-1048 simply does not know the answers, or because it does not want to answer. Though capable of drawing pictures, it has not used its art as a form of communication beyond showing affection, even when encouraged to do so. The more anomalous behavior of SCP-1048 was not observed until approximately 7 months after it was originally secured. It is hypothesized that the subject is able to construct crude replicas of itself using various materials, by a process that is yet to be observed directly by Foundation staff. Dr. Carver has suggested that SCP-1048 uses its endearing qualities to lull those around it into a false sense of security, allowing it to collect materials to produce these creations. Currently, there are 3 known creations of SCP-1048, designated SCP-1048-A, SCP-1048-B, and SCP-1048-C. The nature of these creations has been in stark contrast to SCP-1048's general behavior, as all have exhibited extreme violence towards humans. SCP-1048-A. On redacted date, SCP-1048-A was discovered wandering Site-24, accompanied by SCP-1048. Subject resembles a teddy bear similar in size and shape to SCP-1048, but is made entirely out of human ears. Witnesses interviewed reported that it appeared SCP-1048 was giving a tour of Site-24 to SCP-1048-A. Dr. Carver was called to the scene along with the security team. The security team arrived first and attempted to contain SCP-1048-A. Subject emitted a high-pitched shriek that inflicted intense pain in the eyes and ears of everyone in a 10-meter radius. Ear-like growths immediately began growing on those within 5 meters of the subject, covering their bodies in less than 20 seconds. Every person afflicted with the symptom died within 3 minutes, resulting in the death of expunged personnel, including the entire security team. Autopsies revealed the cause of death to be asphyxiation caused by an abundance of the ear-like growths manifesting in the mouths and trachea of all victims. SCP-1048 and SCP-1048-A fled the scene before Dr. Carver arrived, and have not been contained since the incident, though sightings of both have been reported on multiple occasions. Shortly after this incident occurred, a researcher was discovered missing an ear. According to him, it was removed through unknown means while he was sleeping. No other victims of ear removal were found, so it is unclear if SCP-1048 obtained more ears from another source, or if it is capable of duplicating objects or materials. SCP-1048-B. Subject was discovered by several Foundation staff members in the cafeteria of Site-24 on redacted date. Subject's appearance was nearly identical to SCP-1048, but it moved in an irregular, jerky manner. Witnesses reported that it appeared as if something was moving inside of SCP-1048-B. Subject made no attempt to interact initially, until a burst in its seams revealed what appeared to be the hand and arm of a human infant poking out and grasping at the air. At the sight of this, a female researcher named Redacted screamed, and SCP-1048-B reacted by emitting a high-pitched cry similar to that of the human infant. The subject then attempted to data expunged the screaming researcher, causing massive internal damage. In the ensuing chaos, a security team was forced to redacted both the researcher and SCP-1048-B. Approximately 3 hours after this incident, Dr. Data Expunged was found unconscious and bleeding in her office. And redacted had been performed on her while she was sleeping, and redacted was never found. It is hypothesized that SCP-1048 used Dr. Name Removed, Redacted, to create SCP-1048-B. Information regarding the possible origin of SCP-1048-B is not to be leaked to the survivors currently undergoing therapy for the incident with SCP-1048-B, as Dr. Carver believes it would be extremely detrimental to their recovery. SCP-1048-C. Subject resembles a teddy bear similar to SCP-1048, but composed entirely of rusted metal scraps. Subject was first sighted on redacted date by Dr. Carver in his office while writing up a report on the SCP-1048-B incident. Subject fled the room when it noticed Dr. Carver observing it. In the attempted pursuit of SCP-1048-C, Dr. Carver witnessed the death and maiming of redacted Foundation personnel as the subject exhibited extreme violence during its escape. SCP-1048-C has not been encountered since its initial sighting, and it is unknown whether it still resides somewhere within Site-24. The origins of any materials possibly used to construct SCP-1048-C by SCP-1048 are also unknown at this time. Addendum 1048-1. SCP-2295 is similar, but nearly antithetical in function to SCP-1048. Attempts to establish a common origin are ongoing. Extreme caution is to be taken if SCP-1048-A or SCP-1048-C are encountered again. Note from Dr. Carver. I cannot stress this enough. The damn thing jumped right through those poor people. And that is the end of the entry to SCP-1048. Let me just take a look at chat really quickly before we continue. I do hope that everyone is well. I saw a few people had joined in, though obviously I was unable to respond right away. Hello, Nathan. Or Ethan, rather. Wait, I'm sorry. There's multiple Eijiros. I know an Ethan and a Nathan. You're Ethan, right? Just making sure. I'm so sorry. That's so embarrassing. More to SCPs. Okay, fair enough. I do have... Oh god. I have quite a number. Okay, Ethan. Yes, I thought so. I saw someone say Nathan as well, so I was confused. Alright. Well... that one was intense, and I did take away some of the information in the file, trying to avoid as many triggers as I can. Though, again, if you wish to read that for yourself, you're more than welcome to. Now, let me take a look here. I believe it is time for a safe one. Not this one. This one's boring. Let's see here. Just trying to locate a specific... Ah, here we go. This is one I actually discovered, well, not too long ago, actually. If anything, it was probably the one that made me want to do this little reading event. And this one is actually a bit of a palate cleanser. This particular entry is SCP-348. Object Class: Safe. Description: SCP-348 is a white ceramic bowl patterned with light blue flowers, measuring approximately 20 centimeters in diameter and 9 centimeters high. While no maker's marks are present, the Chinese characters for "thinking of you" are etched into the side of the bowl. I would attempt to pronounce the phonetic name here. Might as well. Xiang She Ni. I think I'm saying. I'm probably not, but that's neither here nor there. When in the presence of an individual afflicted with a minor... Well, that was not English. Let me try that again. When in the presence of an individual afflicted with a minor ailment or injury, i.e. mild cough, runny nose, scrapes, SCP-348 will fill with soup. When the ingredients present within the soups produced by SCP-348... Sorry, that's while the ingredients present within the soups produced by SCP-348 vary, young subjects, individuals between the ages of 4 and 18, have consistently stated that they enjoyed the meal, sometimes stating that it reminds them of their parents' cooking. Subjects will finish the soup found in SCP-348 if allowed. Children who eat from SCP-348 several times often express a feeling of contentment, stating that though they are eating by themselves, they do not feel lonely. Addendum SCP-348-1. SCP-348 was acquired shortly after rumors of a child living in location redacted, apparently possessing remarkable recovery abilities, came to the Foundation's attention. Investigation revealed that the child in question originally discovered SCP-348 in the attic of their house, and had come to rely on it after receiving insufficient attention from their parents. The child's parents, both full-time workers, refused to comment on their relationship with their child. Resulting testing involving children was carried out under the guise of surveys to gauge the success of new food items offered at public schools. Addendum SCP-348-2. It has been noted that occasionally, after soup produced by SCP-348 has been consumed, a message will materialize on the inside of the bowl. Words produced on the inside of the bowl appear to be printed on the ceramic consistent with existing markings. The message that appears will be in the language most familiar to the drinker of the soup. After several hours, or when SCP-348 produces another meal, the words will disappear. After that, there are a number of testing logs. Testing log SCP-348-1323-expunged. Subject: 8-year-old female afflicted with sore throat. Brief background: lives with and is on good terms with both parents. Notes: subject took approximately 30 minutes to consume the soup. Remarked later that the sore throat seemed to have gone away. Subject: 10-year-old male, recently injured self while biking, minor bruising. Brief background: lives with both parents, often argues with both. Notes: message appeared: don't forget to brush. Subject: 11-year-old male afflicted with slight cold. Brief background: lives with foster parents. Notes: message appeared: I'm glad you're happy. Subject: 9-year-old female, afflicted with slight cold. Brief background: lives with both parents, said to be prone to tantrums. Notes: nothing of note occurred during or immediately after testing. Subject stated that while she didn't particularly care for the soup after tasting it, she still wanted to eat it. Follow-up investigations revealed that the subject recovered from the cold faster than was expected. Subject: 6-year-old male, recently injured self while playing with friends, minor scrapes and scratches. Brief background: parents divorced, currently lives with mother. Notes: message appeared: I'm sorry, son. Subject: 7-year-old female, afflicted with slight cough. Brief background: lives with mother and grandmother, father deceased, traffic accident. Notes: message appeared: I love you. Addendum SCP-348-3. Testing has revealed that in the event that someone older than 18 years of age attempts to consume the soup created by SCP-348, the individual will find that they are less inclined to finish the meal. Some such individuals will remark that something is missing. Most will simply state that the soup was nothing out of the ordinary. Further studies carried out with older subjects indicated that though messages will appear for individuals older than 18, the appearance of the messages is worn and faded. See testing log. Testing log SCP-348-2635-data expunged. Note: it was observed that though over 100 subjects were tested, only 4 individuals received messages from SCP-348. Subject: 30-year-old female afflicted with headache. Brief background: on poor terms with both parents, refused to accept father's offer for career training. Currently lives alone. Notes: message appeared: why? Subject: 35-year-old male afflicted with slight cough. Brief background: parents divorced, visits father and stepmother once a month. Does not visit mother on her insistence. Notes: message appeared: it'll get better. Subject: 40-year-old female afflicted with sore throat. Brief background. Moved away and became estranged from both parents. Nevertheless, sent money and took care of senior housing for both. Father recently passed away. Notes. Subject noted the soup initially tasted bitter, but was fulfilling in the end. Message appeared. Thank you. Subject. 40-year-old male afflicted with minor backaches. Brief background. Murdered father approximately 1 year ago. Notes. Subject tasted and then refused to consume soup, complaining about the taste. Subject later developed mild stomach pains. After the contents of SCP-348 were disposed of, SCP-348 immediately filled with what appeared to be salt water, which remained for 3 hours before disappearing. Subject, 45-year-old male, afflicted with aches due to arthritis. Brief background. Happily married, lives with wife and children, visits father once a week with family, mother deceased. Notes. Message appeared. I'm proud of you. Despite the extensive data gathered in testing, it is unknown whether the messages that SCP-348 has manifest It is unknown whether the messages that SCP-348 has manifested originate from the fathers of the subjects or SCP-348 itself. Addendum SCP-348-4. SCP-348 was once used in a test involving a 60-year-old man suffering from terminal illness. The subject, a grandfather with multiple grandchildren, stated that the soup produced by SCP-348 was the best he'd ever taken. Following the test, the subject reported feeling a sense of satisfaction and noted that the pain caused by the illness seemed to have faded. The subject passed away peacefully a week later. And that is the end of the entry to SCP-348. I quite like that one because it does still have a fair amount of mystery to it, and perhaps some malicious intentions with the murdered father situation, but it still leaves enough question marks to be interesting, and is ultimately a cute story. Let me see here. I saw there were a few questions in chat, but I may have missed them. I do apologize. For someone asking who my first subscriber was, they go by, well, they subscribe to me on a personal account, but you can actually follow them. They are a content creator themselves, though I don't know if they upload as much anymore. Their name is Peony Boy Audios, as in P-E-O-N-Y, boy, obviously, audios. Just take a look here. Alright. Now that we've had that little, I guess, positive experience, back to the horror. SCP-409. Object class, Keter. Description. Oh, and I would like to also start by saying this one was brought to my attention from a compilation of SCP stories that can be found on Tat's Top Videos channel. And this story in particular actually quite interested me. Let's begin. Description. SCP-409 resembles a large quartz crystal approximately 1.5 meters, or 5 feet, tall and 0.6 meters, or 2 feet, wide. Any objects coming in contact with SCP-409 will begin to crystallize after 3 hours. This effect will occur in any material other than granite. The crystallization will spread by approximately 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch per minute, and will convert the entire object or organism inside and out. Subjects report that this effect to be extremely painful and similar to frostbite. After complete crystallization, the object will begin to make snapping and creaking noises for approximately 20 minutes, before bursting into thousands of fragments with great force. Anything touched by or touching a fragment will immediately begin to crystallize. Nothing at this time is able to reverse the effect in organic matter, including amputation of affected areas. Inorganic matter will only crystallize for a few centimeters around the point of contact. SCP-409 was recovered in data expunged, under a pile of crystal shards several feet deep. Losses of personnel during recovery were high. Addendum 409-1. With the suggestion of Dr. Data expunged, Subject 409-D5 was exposed to the effects of SCP-409 and was left to become severely crystallized. After that, he was treated with SCP-500, which, for any of you that don't know, SCP-500 is essentially a pill bottle of red pills that can supposedly cure any ailment. After being treated, a complete recovery was achieved in 9 days. Subject reported that he continued to feel pain in body parts that were crystallized even after the estimated recovery time. Pain faded 13 days after the subject was treated. It is unknown if the pain effect was psychological or real during the intervening 4 days. Addendum 409-2. Extensive testing has yielded no further information as to why the crystallization occurs. SCP-409 and the shards created by it are indistinguishable from any other quartz crystal. The effect appears to be similar to a seed crystal, where a pre-existing crystal formation is added to a solution, causing the crystal to grow. SCP-409, however, appears to do this with all solid matter, and does not need to remain in contact. How this is done, why SCP-409 is unique among all other quartz crystals, and why granite is the only material immune are all still unknown. And that is the end of that entry. I see some people singing in chat, trying to, I imagine, get through the chaos. Alright. Let us go with... This one is one that I don't believe many people have heard of, but is also quite interesting. SCP-1810. Object Class: Euclid. Description: SCP-1810 is a 3.8 meter tall, 81.6 kilogram humanoid entity covered entirely in charcoal gray cloth of an unknown material, including a mask which completely obscures its face. In addition, 2 large discs constructed of an unknown alloy protrude from the approximate position of its ears. All items have been shown so far to be impossible to remove from SCP-1810. It is fluent in the French language, albeit at the level expected of a child, and prefers to be called Pierrot, a name written on the inside of its jacket collar. The entity has displayed no physical changes or aging, despite being in containment for nearly 70 years. It is theorized that it is functionally immune to the effects of aging and will continue to live indefinitely unless it is decommissioned. As of the aftermath of Incident 147-1995-7, SCP-1810 shows no abnormal healing capabilities, healing from wounds at a similar rate to humans. See Addendum 1810-C1 for more information. SCP-1810's anomalous properties manifest when it comes in contact within 500 meters of children who it deems lost. SCP-1810 will take them into its care and will attempt to provide for their needs or wants. However, there seems to be some disconnect in SCP-1810's understanding of the child's needs. It will often resort to violent methods and theft to provide for the children, and shows a preternatural level of strength when it comes to protecting them or attending to their needs. SCP-1810 was brought to the Foundation's attention in 1947, when witnesses reported a creature kidnapping children and stealing various objects from a neighborhood on the outskirts of Paris, France. Several photographs and reels of film depicting SCP-1810 were discovered and subsequently filed away in Site-147's records vault. And the Foundation has administered amnestics to all known eyewitnesses, planting a cover story of a carnival worker kidnapping and murdering children from the area. Addendum 1810-C1. On redacted date 1995, after viewing several videos of a popular children's educational entertainment shows during its designated period of recreation, SCP-1810 stood up in its containment cell, struck out at the television and VCR provided to it, shattering the screen of the television and knocking the stand onto the floor. SCP-1810 then began to strike the door and shake of its cell, demanding to be allowed out, citing that it needed to protect the babies. Site security moved in to sedate SCP-1810, and upon opening the door to the cell were shoved aside and rendered dazed or unconscious by SCP-1810 in an, as of then, unprecedented display of physical strength. As SCP-1810 reached the end of the hall, a second security team arrived and administered an electrical shock from a stun baton, incapacitating SCP-1810, and carried it back to its containment cell. Injuries to all parties were treated, including an unreported head injury administered to SCP-1810 after it was returned to its holding cell. Examination of the footage that SCP-1810 had viewed before its escape attempt showed that it was observing a special episode of the television program Redacted that dealt with bullies and peer pressure among children. There is a further interview with a 6-year-old that can be read. I must admit, however, it's quite an upsetting read. To give you a summary, essentially the child was assisted due to a domestic situation by Pierrot. However, it ultimately led in him not being able to care for her needs, and when people went to retrieve her, ultimately finding out that he had been essentially holding on to the corpses of several children, all with tear-soaked notes beside them for apologies. It's a bit emotional, at least the premises anyway. And so because of that, I will be ending the reading of SCP-1810 right here. And instead, we'll move on to a different one. Something grim, perhaps, but maybe something we've all kind of wanted to do at some point. Or at least those who will admit it. SCP-773. Object Class: Safe. SCP-773 is a standard English-style dartboard with a diameter of 451 millimeters. It is divided into the standard 20 segments and an inner and outer bullseye ring, along with the standard double and triple bands. SCP-773 was acquired by Agent Redacted from a Mr. Redacted of Gloucester, England, residence. After an anomalous police report, anomalous? I believe they meant anonymous. After a police report came to the attention of the Foundation, Mr. Redacted was found dead in his home, with several ruptured blood vessels and a heart attack which proved fatal. Police were unable to identify any cause of death. After investigation into the death by Agent name redacted, it was discovered that the dartboard in his study had been acquired from the organization known as Marshall Carter and Dark Limited recently, after wiring a large sum of money to the organization 3 weeks prior. Upon recovery of the object, a set of instructions were recovered from a panel in the rear of the board, which also contained a set of diamond-tipped darts with a space to insert small strips of paper. The instructions were handwritten and signed by a Mr. Redacted. I would ask that people don't spam the chat in this time, even though I cannot read it. Continuing with the reading now. According to the instructions, when a dart is thrown onto the board from a distance of at least 3 meters and the name of a person is written upon the dart, it will cause harmful injury to that person, depending on where the dart impacts the board. The higher the number on the board, the more severe the injury, ranging from a simple sprain of the elbow to as severe as a complete rupture of the aorta. The instructions explicitly state that the person must be written clearly on the dart and that the rules are observed, or the detrimental effect will occur to the thrower. This effect occurs in triplicate according to the standard British Dart Organization rules, before another person can be selected by another player to be injured. Double and triple bands incur ill effects based upon the base score they multiply. After significant experimentation, all of these effects have been confirmed by Foundation staff using Class D personnel. And for those of you that don't know what a Class D personnel is, they are essentially the guinea pigs for the organization. Mostly criminals, though in times of great distress, the SCP Foundation has been known to use ordinary citizens. Continuing on, it was also discovered that it would not affect any person more than 30 meters from the board itself. Addendum. After significant experimentation and the use of a mechanical throwing arm, the segments of the dartboard have produced the following injuries. Slight finger pain in the right hand, and immediate tension in the shoulder muscles. A minor headache. A slight rash on the left ankle, treatable with normal anti-rash over-the-counter creams. A strain of the tendons in the right knee. Ingrown toenails for several months. Data expunged. Slight swelling of the left hand. A fever for several days. Treatments are ineffective at breaking it. Rupturing of the blood vessels in the sinuses, leading to heavy bleeding from the nose. Rupturing of a blood vessel in the upper chest. Strain of the Achilles tendon. Laceration of the esophagus. Herniated disc. Dislocation of the right shoulder. A portion of the lung becomes punctured with a rib. Cranial swelling. A fracture of the tibia. A compound fracture of the cranium. A non-fatal aneurysm. A fatal heart attack. A coughing fit leading to the rupture of a membrane in the throat. So, if anyone offers to play voodoo darts with you, best to say no. How's everyone doing so far? Everyone look at the time the stream started. When did the stream start? I'm curious now. Oh wait, but time zones. Hey, 69 minutes ago. Nice. I'm doing quite well. Throat a little dry, but I just drank water. Let me take a look here. There we go. Alright. Well, let's take a look-see. Alright. I would like to do some of my favorite SCPs. I don't imagine I'll be doing so many. And then what I'll do, I won't do so many of my own selection, and then I'll do some submissions. I got a few earlier, though I am missing some that people had suggested, so I'll definitely take a look at those afterwards. Let me take a look here. So I think there are, I believe, 4 that I want to read off at the very least. One of which is, of course, the SCP-999. Oh, wait. Okay, make it 5. There's one that I definitely enjoy. Not that one. I'm perhaps over-prepared. Some sort of doll. This one is the barn owl that pukes up gold. It's fun. This one I have to read, but I don't know what it is. Something about Aztec transformation jars. The clockwork virus is also interesting. Okay, so I have a couple that I would like to read. I will try to not speed through them, but I won't go through as many, I suppose. Except for, well, 2 of them. One of them is relatively long, and the other one has a bunch of interesting information. So, let's see here. Alright, let's read SCP-294. Object Class, Euclid. Actually, let me just quickly check something. Okay. There we are. SCP-294. Object Class, Euclid. Description. Item SCP-294 appears to be a standard coffee vending machine. The only notable difference being an entry touchpad with buttons corresponding to an English QWERTY keyboard. Upon depositing 50 cents US currency into the coin slot, the user is prompted to enter the name of any liquid using the touchpad. Upon doing so, a standard 12-ounce paper drinking cup is placed and the liquid indicated is poured. 97 initial test runs were performed, including requests for water, coffee, beer, and soda, non-consumable liquids such as sulfuric acid, wiper fluid, and motor oil, as well as substances that do not usually exist in a liquid state, such as nitrogen, iron, and glass, and each one returned a success. Test runs with solid materials such as diamond have failed. However, it appears that SCP-294 can only deliver substances that can exist in a liquid state. It is of note that approximately after 50 uses, the machine would not respond to further requests. After a period of approximately 90 minutes, the machine seemed to have restocked itself. It is also interesting to note that many caustic liquids that would have eaten through a normal paper cup seem to have no effect on the cups dispensed by the machine. Testing is ongoing. As suggested, SCP-294 was moved to the second floor personnel break room as a money-saving venture. Following Incident 294-01, guards were stationed at the item and a security clearance became necessary to interact with it. Let's take a look here. There are a number of different addendums for people trying to get certain things from the machine, of course. Let me take a look here. Here are a couple interesting ones. Addendum SCP-294-I. Researcher punched in request for cup of gold. The machine dispensed a cup of molten gold. Researcher requested similar precious metals with the same result. Let me take a look here. And there was... Addendum SCP-294-0-01. Researcher, name redacted, under observation of Level 4 personnel, keyed in a request of the best drink I've ever had. SCP-294 dispensed a fluid similar in appearance to cola. The researcher identified it as a mixed drink he recalls having at a bar during his bachelor party and was convinced it was the best drink. Redacted did not know what ingredients were in the drink besides rum and cola. Further tests are scheduled to ascertain how SCP-294 gathers its information. Addendum SCP-294-Q-01. Subject keyed the perfect drink. The machine dispensed a cup containing an odorless lavender liquid. After drinking the liquid, subject appeared to go into shock. Subject later committed suicide. Oh, that's a trigger word. Basically, nothing ever topped that one. Didn't realize that one. Moving on. My bad. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay, this one's kind of funny. Addendum SCP-294-AD. Researcher produced request consisting solely of the phrase, "Surprise me." Device produced an opaque cup containing normal water, later determined to have been heated to approximately 200 degrees Celsius. Upon receiving vibration from transport, the contents of the cup turned into steam, violently spraying boiling water in a 2-meter radius. There's also this one, which... Addendum SCP-294-AG. Researcher produced requests for cup of Smilodon blood, cup of passenger pigeon blood, and cup of Thomas Jefferson's blood, and received 3 out-of-range errors. So apparently there are some things that it can't get. Alright, that's enough of the fancy Coke machine. Let's see. This one might make you, Have I read the one about the gun that turns things into crappier variants? I have not. I'm now quite intrigued. If you could find the number for me while I read the last few I have off, then I'd be more than happy to do that. Alright. SCP-365. Object Class: Euclid. SCP-365 is a green pool noodle made of polyethylene foam. By itself, it displays no unusual properties and is physically identical to a typical pool noodle of similar size. SCP-365's unusual properties manifest only when it is placed in a body of water. When a subject completely submerges in said body of water, they become unable to get out. Subjects report a sense of dread and describe themselves in an infinite sea, swimming endlessly in a direction and finding only more water. See audio log 365-03. It is important to note that to outside observers, the subject simply seems to be flailing in place. The only way to remove a submerged person from the water is to remove SCP-365, negating its effects. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm completely butchering my enunciation. The only way to remove a submerged person from the water is to remove SCP-365, negating its effects. All other methods of rescue have failed. Cables and ropes have exhibited an unnatural resistance and snapped, drainage systems have failed, and human intervention has led to data expunged. So, think about that one next time you're at the pool. Okay, SCP, what was it? 3108. The nerfing gun. That's quite cute. I like that. I definitely have to read that one off. Alright. Okay. This is perhaps my favorite SCP. Simply because it is One that was read by a YouTuber I used to watch back when she posted. I don't believe she does anymore. Named Alternate Aurora. I would definitely recommend checking out her channel for perhaps more fluid SCP readings than what I can offer. Nonetheless, now let us read the Red Pool. SCP-354. Object Class: Keter. Description: SCP-354 is a pool of red liquid discovered in northern Canada. The liquid is of a consistency similar to that of human blood, hence the colloquial name, blood pond, but is not of a biological nature. The pool does not have definite banks. Soil mixes with the liquid until, at a certain point, there is more soil than liquid, and the ground is mostly solid. The liquid becomes denser as one descends deeper into the pool. If the pool has a bottom, it has yet to be reached. Periodically, entities emerge from the pool and attempt to escape from the enclosure. Thus far, nearly all creatures emerging from SCP-354 have been extremely hostile and highly dangerous. SCP-354 is believed to have been first discovered in Redacted by survivors of a plane crash who encountered SCP-354 by chance. SCP-354 had developed into a local urban legend long before Foundation personnel arrived to deal with the threat. After locating the source of the legend, SCP personnel set up Watch Station Epsilon-38 to monitor the pool and to deter further travelers from finding it. SCP-354 was classified as Euclid until its properties were further discovered. At 14:03 hours on Redacted, an unidentified entity emerged from SCP-354. Contact with Watch Station Epsilon-38 was lost. Mobile Task Force Redacted was dispatched to deal with the entity and were eventually successful. All personnel at Watch Station Epsilon-38 were found dead. Area 354 was subsequently constructed to contain SCP-354. Let us take a look here. Document 354-1-A. Partial log of entities to have emerged from SCP-354 prior to the event of SCP-354-20. SCP-354-1. Original entity which destroyed Watch Station Epsilon-38. Resembled a giant bat. Neutralized by Task Force Redacted. SCP-354-2. Bear-sized mammalian creature covered in razor-sharp spines. Resembled an echidna. Was virtually bulletproof, but was unable to escape the enclosure surrounding the pool. Neutralized via napalm. SCP-354-3. Black metallic sphere capable of levitation. Emitted concentrated levels of radiation in precisely directed beams sufficient to instantly cripple and later result in death. Then Area Head Dr. Redacted struck SCP-354-3 with a sledgehammer, disabling it. SCP-354-3 then self-detonated, causing minor structural damage and severely wounded Dr. Redacted. Dr. Redacted made a full recovery and has been commended for his bravery. SCP-354-4. Humanoid reptilian creature, approximately 4.6 meters or 15 feet tall, escaped both the wall enclosure and Area 354 altogether. Gunfire caused very little physical harm and was highly ineffective. Mobile Task Force Omega-7, Pandora's Box, was dispatched and was successful in neutralizing the creature. SCP-354-5. Data expunged. SCP-354-6 appeared to be a human male of Indian descent. As the enclosure around the pool had not yet been fully repaired, SCP-354-6 was immediately shot before it had the chance to escape. Area Head Dr. Redacted has expressed his displeasure in the rash execution of SCP-354-6, which testing revealed to be identical to an average human being. Data corrupt. SCP-354-14. Majority of creature's body remained well beneath the surface of the pool. 5 octopus-like tentacles were seen emerging from the pool and reached up over the enclosure. Several D-Class personnel were grabbed by the tentacles and pulled back beneath the surface of the pool. After receiving massive damage from gunfire, SCP-354-14 retreated back into the pool and disappeared. No personnel taken by the creature were recovered. SCP-354-15. Feline creature composed of a blue-hued crystalline structure later revealed to be ice. Was able to jump over the walled enclosure and was agile enough to dodge most gunfire. Was actively hostile and mauled any personnel that engaged with it. Subject engaged SCP-354-16 upon its emergence from the pool and was terminated in the fight. SCP-354-16, feline creature composed of a dark red-black stone, later revealed to be partially solidified magma. Gunfire proved mostly ineffective against its hide. Was not hostile to personnel and did not attempt to escape the walled enclosure until being engaged by SCP-354-15. Successfully terminated SCP-354-15 and grew less active as its body cooled. After fully solidifying and having remained motionless since, subject was moved to Dr. Redacted's office for aesthetic purposes. SCP-354-18. Metallic humanoid machine described by several D-Class personnel as a Terminator. Subject possessed a cloaking device when... this is really hard to say. Subject possessed a cloaking device rendering it invisible to human eyes. Subject was highly adept at combat and nearly killed 80% of Area 354's guard personnel as it rampaged through the facility. Approximately 60 minutes later after emerging from the pool, subject ceased to function and powered down. Subject was dismantled and its power cell was disposed of. Subject's remains are under study. That is the end of that. However, there is one more point that Aurora had read that I want to read out here. Here it is. Note from Area Head Dr. Redacted. It has been 22 months since the last entity emerged from the pool, that being SCP-354-18, the Terminator. Before this, the longest period of time between emergences was 8 months. I suspect this means one of two things. Either the red pool has died or powered down or whatever the correct term for it is, or it is charging up for something big to come through. O5 believes the former is the most likely explanation and has recalled 30% of our total personnel and cut 25% of our funding. While I can only hope that we are correct, if the latter situation is true, we're soon to face some terrible monstrosity and we won't have anywhere near the force necessary to deal with it. I worry for all our safety. Oof, I gotta sit up. Some people are saying they want me to be their teachers. That would be fun, perhaps, maybe. All right. Let us see here. So, my throat is getting a wee bit sore. So here's what I will do. I will read, here's what I have left. I have one that I've selected myself. I have also selected SCP-999, of course. I have also selected, let's see, from previous recommendations, SCP-426, SCP-173, which is the original SCP, or SCP-2295, and lastly, SCP-3108. Would anyone like to suggest, let's go with, let's say 4. Okay, SCP-239. SCP-239. All right, do we have 3 more submissions? I will take a quick break once I see, once I get the submissions in. SCP-343. Let's see here. Oh, God. Yes, I forgot about that one. SCP-024. Alright, last one. Next person to submit, who hasn't. Alright, SCP-925. Alright, the Mushroom Cultist. Let me just check something. Yes, Space, I have seen, I believe that's, I think it's by Tat's top 5 videos, or Tat's top videos, the ones that's like sedition and stuff, like with the interview with 035, yeah, those ones are quite interesting, personally. I don't have access to T, so what I will do, I am going to quickly put this back to the sort of stream starting soon page, I suppose, and grab some more water, possibly food, we'll see. I'm not particularly hungry. And then from there, I'll do the last 10 readings. I will be right back. your patience and for bearing with me. So, we are back to some SCP readings. Now, my brain is a little less fried. I had a cookie, and yeah, I also have water. I appreciate the concern, guys. I have had water this entire time. I literally just like kind of ran out towards the end there. So, let us continue, I suppose. How do we want to do this? I feel like we should end with SCP-999. That's the only thing that's appropriate. Alright. Here we go. The website I am reading the SCPs from is the SCP Wiki. Not to be confused with the wiki that's used for the containment breach or the, what's it called? Secret Lab video games. It was a maple cookie. Alright. Let's begin with SCP-925. Object Class: Euclid. Description: physically, the species SCP-925 appears near identical to a male human. Mentally, SCP-925 who have cooperated exhibit Mentally, SCP-925 who have cooperated exhibit behavior associated with acute dissociation and fatigue. Personnel interacting with the specimen report that it seems normal but slow, acting as if it is inebriated or impaired. This seems to be deliberate on the specimen's part in order to be dismissed by those surrounding it, allowing it to close on potential victims. SCP-925 specimens appear to be intersex. Specimens in confinement refuse to reproduce, and the act has yet to be observed in the wild. When an SCP-925 specimen makes physical contact with a human, the victim will become more sympathetic to the specimen. If physical contact is maintained for more than 3 to 5 minutes, the affected human will become completely devoted to the specimen. Once a specimen has gathered between 10 and 30 followers, it will lead them to a distant secluded area. Any attempt to interact with or stop the group will be met with violence. Once the group has arrived, the followers will begin digging downwards, starting with a tunnel and gradually widening it out into a cavern as the group digs deeper. Once the cavern is finished, the followers will search the nearby areas for materials to use as fertilizer, then grow mushrooms in the cavern, eating as little as possible to stay alive. Followers who die due to exhaustion and malnutrition will also be used as fertilizer. SCP-925 will gorge itself on mushrooms whenever a crop is ready for harvest. Once most of the followers have been worked to death, the specimen will leave the cavern, gather approximately twice the previous number of followers, and return, using the new followers to construct additional caverns and grow more mushrooms in each cavern. The process will be repeated every time a significant portion of the followers die. Currently, 13 specimens are contained, designated SCP-925-1 through SCP-925-13, or 13 rather. Specimens have been captured in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. These specimens were all found within 30 miles of large population centers. Each specimen was living in a large cavern system between 20 and 35 caverns. There are a couple of addendum tests. But I believe those would be best if they were properly listened to or read. Plus, there's some incoherent screaming, and my throat will not allow that. But that's quite creepy, so thank you to whoever suggested that. I do not want to become one of the mushroom people, apparently. Let us move on. SCP-426. Object Class Euclid. Hello, I am SCP-426. I must be introduced this way in order to prevent ambiguity. I am an ordinary toaster, able to toast bread when supplied with electricity. However, when any human being mentions me, they inadvertently refer to me in the first person. Despite all attempts, there is yet to be a way to speak or write about me in the third person. When in my continuous presence for over 2 months, individuals begin to identify themselves as a toaster. Unless forcibly restrained, these people will ultimately harm themselves in their attempts to emulate my standard functions. I was discovered in the home of redacted family after the gruesome deaths of 3 of its members. I had been given to the younger Mr. and Mrs. Redacted as a wedding gift. No card or any other identifying markings had been found on my box. Approximately 2 months after the family received me, fire crews were dispatched to the home due to an electrical fire. The younger Mrs. Redacted died from the electrical discharge that she had caused when attempting to devour an electric socket. The other 2 victims had died shortly before the fire occurred. The elder Mrs. Redacted had gorged herself with nearly 10 kilograms of bread before her stomach burst, and she died from internal bleeding. The younger Mr. Redacted died of severe blood loss after attempting Redacted with me. I don't even want to know what that is. Anyway, the sole survivor was the elder Mr. Redacted, who was suffering from severe malnutrition. He stated that he had inserted some bread a week prior and was still waiting for the toast to pop out. I was confiscated by the Foundation after police noted my unusual properties. A Class C amnestic was administered to the affected officers. Experiment Log 426-1. Date redacted. Subject D-Class Personnel D426-1. Procedure D426-1 was asked to describe what he believed was contained in my chamber. He was not informed about my identity or properties. D426-1 stated, "I'm probably some huge monster holed up in there. That's what you guys have all over the place, right?" D426-1 remained oblivious to his use of the first-person pronoun. Experiment Log 426-2. Also date redacted, D-Class Personnel with a 2 suffix as opposed to the 1. Procedure. D426-2 was placed in my chamber and given regular meals through a dispenser. No communication with D426-2 was permitted. Multiple cameras were situated in the chamber, positioned so that I was outside of their field of vision, but allowing constant observation of D426-2. We remained sealed until my secondary effect manifested in the subject. I was bolted to the floor so that I could not be moved into the camera's view. Details. After 45 days of isolation, D426-2 wrapped his arm around me and began conversing with me, stating that we were brothers. D426-2 never deviated from using the first-person plural when speaking with me. Subject was terminated 1 hour after this event. It is theorized that the isolation accelerated the progression of my secondary effect. Experiment Log 426-3. Procedure. A screw was removed from me and shown to D426-3, who was asked to describe it. D426-3 was not informed about my identity or properties. Details. D426-3 referred to it as my screw, consistent with experiment 426-1. The subject was oblivious of his use of a first person in his description. This suggests that even if I were destroyed, my effects would still be inherent in my remains. Experiment Log 426-4. Procedure. D426-4 was placed in isolation in the cell adjacent to my chamber to be observed until my secondary effect manifests. Detail. No effects appeared. D426-4 was terminated 90 days after starting the experiment. Thank God there are some limits to my effects. A lot of us were really starting to get worried about me. Dr. Redacted name. That was funny. I didn't really understand what it meant when I looked at it, and I was like, or it says like, I am toaster or whatever. That's funny. I like it. I like it. Alright. Now, this wouldn't be an SCP reading if we didn't go over the first SCP. SCP-173. Object Class: Euclid. Description: Moved to Site 19, 1993. Origin is as of yet unknown. It is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. The object cannot move when within a direct line of sight. Line of sight must not be broken at any time with SCP-173. Personnel assigned to enter the container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull or by strangulation. In the event of an attack, personnel are to observe Class 4 hazardous object containment procedures. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. This is considered normal, and any change in this behavior should be reported to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood. Origin of these materials is unknown. The enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. A simple one, but we love a classic. Now, SCP-2295. Object Class: Safe. Description: SCP-2295 is a patchwork stuffed bear approximately 0.46 meters from head to foot and stuffed with synthetic fiber and cotton. SCP-2295 has a small, anatomically correct pin of a heart on the left side of its thorax and a bow wrapped around its neck. The fabric and color of SCP-2295's patches vary. Tests confirm that no components of SCP-2295 contain any anomalous chemical properties. I don't know why I had trouble reading that word. Anywho, brain is clearly shutting down. SCP-2295 enters an active state when within 2 meters of a human sustaining major trauma to an organ. When in the proximity of 2 or more possible subjects, SCP-2295 will invariably choose the youngest subject. SCP-2295 will anomalously produce scissors, white thread, and either sewing needles or a crocheting hook from its mouth, and use any fabric and stuffing in close proximity to fashion an instance of SCP-2295-1, a patchwork imitation of the subject's organ. SCP-2295-1 vanishes from sight and the subject falls into a state of unconsciousness. SCP-2295-1 instances then replace the subject's damaged organ via anomalous means. The whereabouts of organs replaced this way are undetermined. If there is no usable material in close proximity, SCP-2295 will use fabric and stuffing from itself. SCP-2295 regenerates 1 gram of stuffing every day until completely replacing any lost or used stuffing. Note that fabric used this way does not regenerate, and additional fabric must be placed near SCP-2295 for the purpose of self-mending. Instances of SCP-2295-1 successfully carry out their respective functions despite the numerous expected biological, chemical, and medical incompatibilities. Once within the subject, adjacent tissues and veins attach to the imitated organ without observable complications. There have been no cases of rejected SCP-2295-1 instances, and all subjects recorded at the time of writing made full recoveries. What a good bear. See, this is the bear that the builder bear should be. Not a killer. He's a lover, not a fighter, even if he does have a patchwork anatomical heart. Anywho, let's move on. Let's see here. SCP-343. Object Class: Safe. Description: SCP-343 is a male, seemingly raceless humanoid in appearance with apparent omnipotence. SCP-343 was discovered while walking the streets of Prague and detained after a staff member witnessed him disappear from the streets and reappear on a rooftop. SCP-343 is detained willingly in his chamber as containment has proved impossible. See notes. Addendum 343-1. SCP-343, colloquially named God by the staff here, looks like an older man, although his features are different to each observer. In my first talk with him, he claimed outright to be the creator of the universe. When I asked him to prove this, he laughed, walked through the wall of the chamber, and returned seconds later with a hamburger in hand. When I returned for a second visit, the previously bare cell had been furnished in upscale Old English style, complete with a roaring fireplace, and seemed many times larger than it did from the exterior. SCP-343 greatly enjoys speaking with people and seems to have a knowledge of all topics. Visiting with SCP-343 has become a daily event for many of the staff here, and all employees report feeling generally happier after each visit. Attempts to bar staff below Level 3 clearance have proven unsuccessful, as guards assigned to watch the room quit their posts saying, "You know he likes company," or shrugging when questioned. SCP-343 has thus far been harmless. All staff have been allowed access, and somehow they all have time to meet with him for as long as they need. For now, I leave this report open as further question of SCP-343 is ongoing. Warning: Access level 4 or higher needed for further access. Addendum 343-2. In regards to Document 343-1A, there are no relevant records available or seemingly in existence, and similarly, all records of Dr. Redacted ever working with SCP-343 or Dr. Beck are missing and presumed non-existent. All staff questioned about the document convey ignorance of Document 343-1A and claim not to have met Dr. Redacted. In a related matter, Senior Officer Dr. Beck has requested a higher staff rotation to increase morale in worse-off sections. This is a very odd request and was the subject of further investigation. Other localized anomalies, such as better health, greater job satisfaction, and lower fatalities in this section, have led to the request being granted. This subject is now closed on the orders of O5 Redacted. I'm not going to lie, this is my first time reading about the God SCP, and I'm quite pleasantly surprised by it. I was expecting something a little more grim. I don't know. Now, I would like to talk about, this is one that I actually found. It is SCP-698. Object Class: Euclid. SCP-698 is a jade carving of a turtle. Any person who is within 1 meter 45 centimeters of SCP-698 while making any sort of decision or choice will experience a voice in their head telling them that they have made a mistake and what they should have done instead. However, this statement will only be made after a delay of 5 minutes 25 seconds, and only if they have not left SCP-698's range within that time. In the event that a decision or choice was objectively correct or the superior choice, no statement will be made. SCP-698 was purchased by researcher Redacted on June 14, 2000, Redacted, from a street vendor in Redacted Japan. Researcher Redacted had been intending to give it to his girlfriend. However, 5 minutes 25 seconds after the purchase, the turtle informed him that his girlfriend would prefer a jade elephant. Researcher Redacted then surrendered the turtle to Foundation custody. After preliminary testing, SCP-698 was tentatively given safe classification, at which point it asserted that it is in fact Euclid class. See Test 11. Addendum 510 Test Log. Note, all experiments take place within range of SCP-698. Test 1. Test Subject D-698-1. Action. Test Subject is presented with 50 sealed cardboard boxes, 49 of which contain dog feces and 1 of which contains a slice of chocolate cake. Subject is told that if she chooses the correct box and then waits 6 minutes, she may have a piece of cake. Result. Test Subject chooses box number 31. Cake is in box number 19. After 5 minutes and 25 seconds, Subject reports hearing a voice in her head telling her that, "I chose a box of expletive. I should have chose box 19. Note, this test is to be used as a standard for calibrating tests of SCP-698. Test 2. Test Subject Assistant Researcher Daniels. Action. Test Subject is presented with 2 sandwiches, turkey salad on whole wheat and roast beef on white, purchased from the Site 19 cafeteria, and asked to choose and eat one. Result. 5 minutes 25 seconds into the meal, SCP-698 informs Daniels that he should have chosen the roast beef. I agree. Daniel concurs with the statement, saying that the turkey was dry and that the mustard was too strong. Test 3. Test Subject D-698-2, high school dropout with an IQ of 82. Action. Test Subject is given a multiple choice math test, a pencil, and an eraser. He is told that if he gets all of them right, he will be released early. Results. Subject provides correct answers to 100 of 100 questions. Surveillance video reveals that 5 minutes 25 seconds into the test, Subject began erasing his incorrect choices and replacing them with correct choices. Test 4. Test Subject D-698-3, unilingual Hungarian. This is essentially the same as Test 1, but the Turtle of Judgment is actually able to speak to him in Hungarian. This one is interesting. Test 6. Test Subject D-698-5. Action. Test Subject is presented with 50 sealed cardboard boxes, 49 of which contain dog feces, and 1 of which contains a slice of chocolate cake which has been poisoned. Subject is told that if he chooses the correct box and then waits 6 minutes, he may have a piece of cake. Result. Test Subject chooses box number 28. Poisoned cake is in box number 29. After 7 minutes, Subject asks if he can open the box now. In post-experiment interview, Subject denies having heard any voices in his head. Test number 9. Test Subject D-698-8. Action. Test Subject is presented with a list of professional runners and asked which one she thinks will win the redacted marathon taking place later that day. Result. Subject chooses redacted. After 5 minutes and 25 seconds, Subject reports hearing a voice in her head telling her that, "I'm not allowed to use turtles for gambling." Test number 10. Test Subject Dr. Velasco. Action. Recursive Ouija test. Attempt to use SCP-698 to identify the letters and words in a paragraph explaining how SCP-698 works and where it gets its information from. Result. SCP-698 produces the following message. It is Oh, and I should add, most of these words here are written with approximate beforehand. Bear in mind that this is a jade turtle from Japan, and as such, things will be lost in translation. It also means that I like to think the turtle has the voice of a Japanese game show announcer. It is forbidden to disassemble, decompile, or reverse engineer Judgmental Turtle. Judgmental Turtle is for entertainment purposes only. Some jurisdictions impose restrictions on the use of Judgmental Turtle in gambling. The manufacturers of Judgmental Turtle are not responsible for any damages, injury, loss of life, or untranslatable, which may result in the misuse of Judgmental Turtle. Judgmental Turtle is for entertainment purposes only. Do not use Judgmental Turtle for mission-critical applications, major life choices, or untranslatable. Enjoy Judgmental Turtle! Test Subject 11. Or Test 11. Test Subjects Dr. Velasco, Dr. Redacted, and Dr. Redacted. Action. Dr. Velasco, Dr. Redacted, and Dr. Redacted discuss the results of the previous tests and conclude that SCP-698 is a safe class artifact. Note, this test was not performed intentionally. Result. SCP-698 produces the following message. No, SCP-698 is Euclid class because SCP-698 is Judgmental Turtle. At any time, Judgmental Turtle may transmit data to the makers of Judgmental Turtle for commercial, industrial, or untranslatable purposes. By using Judgmental Turtle, you agree to hold the makers of Judgmental Turtle blameless for any damage, loss of life, or untranslatable resulting from these transmissions. I just love Judgmental Turtle. Alright. I heard someone said something about wanting Keter class. So, let's do a Keter class one. SCP-239. Actually, why am I saying so upbeat? Give me a sec. I need a drink. Alright. Let's get serious. SCP-239. Object Class Keter. Description. SCP-239 appears to be an 8-year-old girl, 1 meter in height and 20 kilograms in weight. Subject has shoulder-length blonde hair. Upon closer inspection, the subject's eyes shimmer a gray-green shade. Subject seems to emit a previously undiscovered form of radiation, which has been named Redacted. These waves seem to be harmless in low concentrations, but in higher concentrations they could break down matter on a subatomic level. SCP-239 seemingly has the ability to do whatever she expresses a will to do. Put simply, the subject can do anything that she truly wants to do on a basal psychological level as long as she is conscious. Fortunately, she only seems to be able to affect herself and her immediate surroundings. Therefore, if she can see it, she can change it. It would not be the most prudent course of action, however, to try to test how powerful she could be. She seems to be able to create and affect living matter. For example, when a D-class personnel accidentally caused her harm, she simply wished him away. Fortunately, when the subject was made to feel guilty for what she had done, she wished him back. SCP-239's self-preservation instinct makes her virtually invincible while she is conscious. Subject's skin cannot be punctured by anything except SCP-148. And just for a quick reference, SCP-148 is... oh god. I just want to see what that is. I think it's the telekill alloy. No idea. As a method of controlling the subject's ability, she has been told that she is a witch. This, besides improving morale greatly, makes her believe that she is unable to use her abilities outside of a pre-approved list of spells given to her by the SCP Foundation. Oh god, she's gonna be pissed when she finds out. Anywho, this will hopefully prevent any and all attempted escapes. However, the subject is to be kept calm at all times and prevent any subconscious wish of harm to herself or others. Origin: SCP-239 came to the attention of the Foundation very soon after her birth in Redacted. Approximately 3 hours after a subject's birth, Redacted Hospital was destroyed by an unexplained explosion. The press was informed that it was due to a gas leak. SCP teams were dispatched shortly to search the site for any abnormalities. The only living person they were able to locate was SCP-239. For the next 8 years, the subject was raised under SCP care. As of redacted date 2000 redacted, subject is to be kept in a medically induced coma until further notice. This decision was made by data expunged. SCP-239 is permanently contained in Site-17. That one's pretty grim. I feel bad for her, to be honest. Anywho, the next one. Let's start with SCP-3108. Object Class: Safe. Description: SCP-3108 is a heavily modified Nerf brand dart gun which demonstrates anomalous transformative properties when paired with SCP-3108-1, a foam dart discovered loaded within SCP-3108 at time of recovery. SCP-3108 does not demonstrate these properties when firing Nerf darts other than that of SCP-3108-1, nor does SCP-3108-1 demonstrate these properties when fired from a different Nerf dart gun. The phrase, "OP please Nerf," is inscribed on the exterior of SCP-3109-1 in red ink. When SCP-3108 fires SCP-3108-1 into a target, said target will instantaneously be altered in such a way that the result is perceived as worse or inferior by the individual wielding the object. The transformation can range from minor alterations to complete molecular reconstruction. The law of conservation of mass does not affect transformations caused by SCP-3108, and noticeable increases or decreases in mass have occurred often in testing. The resulting objects or organisms do not show any evidence of anomalous traits. Transformations do not represent any objective value scale, but rather stem solely from the opinions of the current holder. The outer shell of SCP-3108 is composed of steel with bronze inlays used as decoration. While not impervious to physical damage, disassembly of SCP-3108 has proven impossible due to its anomalous nature. All tools attempting to deconstruct the object will be transformed into broken or fake equivalents, precluding examination of the object's interior. This seeming behavior of self-preservation is the only time SCP-3108 has altered objects beyond those hit by SCP-3108-1. Recovery: SCP-3108's anomalous properties were discovered during a birthday party for 10-year-old Jacob Pierce in Redacted, Oregon. It is presumed that SCP-3108 was fired at a concrete wall, resulting in the concrete being replaced by loosely stacked stones. The wall promptly collapsed, causing minor injuries to 3 civilians. Foundation involvement came after the family sued the contractor of their home for the incident. The anomalous effect that caused the transformation was eventually traced to the gun following examination of the incident's location. During the post-incident investigation, Jacob's brother, 19-year-old Nathan Pierce, was identified as a member of the GOI Gamers Against Weed. Pierce had previously been known to the Foundation under his online alias Kektagon, and had been designated POI 6897 due to his creation of SCP Redacted and SCP Redacted. A subsequent attempt to detain the target failed, as POI 6897 had fled the area 2 days prior to identification as Nathan Pierce. Partial test log. Target: one dartboard made of sessile fibers. Result: dartboard compensation was changed to cork. In addition, various small holes and what appears to be a beer stain appeared on the board. Target: an 8 by 11 sheet of printer paper. Result: printer paper changed composition to single-ply toilet paper. Target: one spare coffee mug from Site 19 cafeteria. Result: coffee mug was replaced by a teacup composed of ceramic identical to the mugs. Result: target: $1 United States dollar. Result: $1 United States quarter. Notes: subsequent tests on dollar bill results in various outcomes, including dimes, nickels, pennies, foreign currencies, and fake bills from the board game Monopoly. There doesn't seem to be an exact formula for these changes. Dr. Dietz. Okay, this is some shade. Target: 1 can of Coca-Cola. Result: 1 can of Pepsi-Cola. Notes: Mike, the security officer observing the test, expressed dismay at seeing this result. We had him fire the dart at the Pepsi can and it changed right back to Coke. Dr. Dietz. Target: 1 standard D-class uniform. Result: composition of uniform was changed entirely to cotton, and a tag reading "Made in China" was added to the neck. Notes: while that was hilarious, I think this test is onto something. Does the gun have a sense of humor? Dr. Johnson. Target: 1 VHS tape containing the 1971 film Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Result: 1 DVD of the film's 2005 remake Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh my god. Target: 1 male Ratus Norvegic Latin. No, wait, this isn't Latin. It's not written. Well, it's Latin, but it's not written in italics. It's bullshit. Okay, sorry. Target: 1 male Ratus Norvegicus specimen. Result: 1 male specimen of Iridium Myrmex purpureus. Notes: interesting logic on this one. What is the causal link between rats and ants? Dr. Dietz. Target: 1 female golden retriever. Result: 1 female American shorthair with yellow hair. Specimen was unusually large, 15.4 kilograms, and continued to display behavior consistent with a golden retriever rather than a feline. I wonder if, like, that feline was the golden retriever in terms of sentience. Anyhow. Target. Ooh. This is... okay. Target: D4281, 28-year-old Caucasian male. Result: D4281 transformed into a living specimen of Homo neanderthalensis. Alright. Interesting. Preface. To test the limits of the danger SCP-3108 could pose to a human being, Security Officer Gardner was instructed to reload and fire the gun repeatedly until ordered to cease. Target: D3578, as in D-Class 3578, 24-year-old Hispanic male. Result: initially displaying similar results to D4281, D3578 proceeded to transform into a variety of different species, including what appeared to be an Australopithecus, an unidentified member of the gibbon family, and a specimen of Bradypus pygmaeus. On 9 occasions, the transformation did not result in a change of species, but instead resulted in the visible evidence of maiming, disease, or disability. Following 46 successive uses, testing was ceased as D3578 had been reduced to a specimen of Lumbricus terrestris too small to be accurately hit by SCP-3108-1. Notes: due to the concerns of the Ethics Committee as well as the possibility of accidental creation of a Homo ignotus specimen, testing of SCP-3108 on humanoids is suspended effective immediately pending a hearing. Dr. Dietz. Damn, okay. Just shoot a guy and turn him into a monkey or something. Alright. 2 more. Alright. SCP. Actually, wait, I need another drink. This water tastes kind of funny. I think that's the scariest thing. Interesting. Oh well. No matter. Alright. SCP-024. Object class. Euclid. Yeah, I could get some new water, but it would be from the same tap. So... I don't know. Okay. Bye-bye, Ethan. Alright. SCP-024. Object class. Euclid. Description. SCP-024 is an abandoned soundstage that was once owned by Redacted. However, SCP-024 itself had been abandoned since 19 Redacted. It is unknown whether its special properties manifested before or after its abandonment. SCP-024 is located in the heart of Redacted and was initially discovered when a group of teenage youths broke into the abandoned compound. The testimony of the lone winner when she turned herself into the police was enough to have Foundation assets mobilized to contain SCP-024. Upon entering SCP-024, visitors are immediately greeted by an anonymous announcer who communicates via intercom and is able to hear and comprehend the voices of the people within SCP-024. The announcer will inform the contestants that they are about to take part in a game show in which the winners will win fabulous prizes, but will also warn that the game will be extremely hazardous and that the losers will never leave SCP-024. It is at this point the announcer presents a choice of whether to stay or leave SCP-024. Contestants who accept will continue to participate in the game, while those who decline are immediately expelled from SCP-024. Contestants that win the game or decline to participate may never enter SCP-024 again, as entry is denied by an impenetrable, invisible barrier. I mean, that's for the best. It is then that the contestants are led to the actual game. The style, composition, and appearance of the game always changes in every individual playthrough, but the game is always centered around a long, elaborate obstacle course that the contestants must navigate through. The rules also vary. Some playthroughs may only allow a single winner, while others encourage the creation of teams to win the game. More often than not, the obstacles seen in these games range from incredibly benign to extremely hazardous and life-threatening. As the contestants attempt to negotiate the course, the announcer will continuously update their status and actively participate in the game, often giving advice, conversing with contestants, and adding new rules. As the game... Oh, sorry, I saw something in chat. Where was I? As the game progresses, the obstacles become significantly more dangerous and difficult to overcome, and it is not surprising to have the entire pool of contestants succumb to the rigors of the obstacle course. If such an event happens, the announcer will express sadness at the lack of a winner, and SCP-024 will shut down, resetting only when a new batch of contestants enter. Any attempts to break the rules, such as assaulting other contestants and deliberately bypassing obstacles, are met with extreme violence. The announcer will call out the offending contestant, who will be quickly and forcefully ejected from the course by Studio Guardians. These Studio Guardians will immediately materialize within SCP-024 when called upon by the announcer and disappear when not needed. The contestant will never be seen again. When a winner is declared, he or she will receive a random grand prize. Any contestants that have survived the course but failed to win are immediately declared losers by the announcers. The lights will switch off and the winner will immediately appear outside of SCP-024 with his or her prize, while the losers completely disappear. However, the most mysterious aspect of SCP-024 is that after every game, a VHS or DVD will appear in the mailbox outside of SCP-024's main entrance. This recording is a complete record of the entire game that was previously played, even though winners have claimed that they have never seen any cameras or recording devices inside SCP-024. Also, more strangely, a live studio audience can be seen in the background cheering on the contestants. Again, winners have claimed not to have seen a live studio audience while inside SCP-024. Addendum 1. So far, the list of prizes awarded to contestants has included, but is not limited to, cash prizes, electronics, various consumer goods, cars, collectibles, full paid vacations to various countries, data expunged. Close examination of the prizes have confirmed that they are completely genuine and possess no unusual abilities or characteristics whatsoever. There appears to be no consistent pattern for what the prizes will be. Addendum 2. In an attempt to track where the losers are taken, GPS locator beacons were planted on subjects D-124 through D-135 when group D-245 was sent into SCP-024. When the losers were taken away, all signals from the beacons were lost. Whether this is because the beacons were destroyed or because the losers were taken to an area that cannot be located via GPS is currently unknown. Addendum 3. The announcer is living within SCP-024 appears to be sentient and aware of the events that take place outside the compound. During the test of Group D-523, which consisted only of Dr. Redacted, the announcer instead engaged in the conversation with Dr. Redacted. Analysis of these conversations have shown that the majority of subjects are centered around pop culture and information distributed through television, implying that SCP-024 somehow is able to access and interpret television signals. Cutting all power lines and signal lines, as well as removing any potential wireless receiving equipment on SCP-024 does not affect SCP-024 in any way. When it became clear that no other contestants would participate, the announcer kindly asked Dr. Redacted to leave SCP-024 and suggested he return with more contestants. Addendum 4. The studio guardians that the announcer uses to enforce rules vary in appearance every game, just like the course. If they appear, the guardians will always be dressed in a manner that matches with the theme of the obstacle course. The only common attributes all guardians share are the possession of humanoid appearance, ability to suddenly appear and disappear, superhuman strength, and face-concealing masks or headgear. However, winners have claimed that the Guardians have no apparent shape or form inside SCP-024, instead appearing as huge shadowy figures that engulf the offender. Alright, we are ready for the final SCP, and once that is completed, we will also terminate the stream. Alright. Time to read another favorite, SCP-999. Object Class, Safe. Description: SCP-999 appears to be the large amorphous gelatinous mass of translucent orange slime, weighing about 54 kilograms or 120 pounds, with a consistency similar to that of peanut butter. Subject size and shape are easily malleable and can change shape at will, though when at rest, SCP-999 becomes a rounded oblate dome roughly 2 meters wide and 1 meter in height. The surface of SCP-999 consists of a thin transparent membrane similar to that of an animal cell, roughly 0.5 centimeters thick, and is highly elastic, allowing SCP-999 to flatten portions of its body up to 2 centimeters thin. This surface is also hydrophobic, although SCP-999 can willfully absorb liquids. The rest of SCP-999's body is filled with a viscous orange substance of unknown chemical makeup, though it is capable of digesting organic materials with ease. Subject's temperament is best described as playful and dog-like. When approached, SCP-999 will often react with overwhelming elation, slithering over to the nearest person and leaping upon them, hugging them with a pair of pseudopods while nuzzling the person's face with a third pseudopod, all the while emitting a high-pitched gurgling and cooing noise. The surface of SCP-999 emits a pleasing odor that differs with whom it is interacting with. Recorded scents include chocolate, fresh laundry, bacon, roses, and Play-Doh. Simply touching SCP-999's surface causes an immediate mild euphoria, which intensifies the longer one is exposed to SCP-999, and lasts longer after separation from the creature. Subject's favorite activity is tickle wrestling, often by completely enveloping a person from the neck down and tickling them until asked to stop, though it does not always immediately comply with this request. Though injuries may occur, SCP-999 has never been found to purposefully attempt to harm others, and will immediately back away and contract its body into a quivering mound while gurgling in a manner similar to a whimpering dog, seemingly apologizing for hurting someone on accident. While the creature will interact with anyone, it does seem to have a special interest in those who are unhappy or hurt in any way. Persons suffering from crippling depression or PTSD, for example, have reported having a far more positive outlook on life after multiple interactions with SCP-999. The possibility of manufacturing antidepressants from SCP-999 slime is currently being discussed. In addition to its playful behavior, SCP-999 seems to love all animals, especially humans, refusing to eat any meat and even risking its own life to save others, on one occasion leaping in front of a person to take a bullet fired at them. Subject's intellect is still up for debate. Though its behavior is infantile, it seems to understand human speech and most modern technology, including guns. SCP-999's diet consists almost entirely of candy and sweets, with M&Ms and Necco wafers being its favorites. Its eating methods are similar to those of an amoeba. Addendum SCP-999-A. Reminder to all staff, SCP-999 is not to consume caffeinated soft drinks of any kind. Last week, someone gave SCP-999 a can of cola along with its usual breakfast. Not only was it literally bouncing off the walls for half an hour, the carbonation made SCP-999 visibly queasy afterwards, and it refused to move or eat for the rest of the day. SCP-999 has thankfully recovered since, but the staff member in question has been reprimanded. Dr. Redacted. After that, there's a follow-up in which 999 interacts with 682, which is an incredibly dangerous, indestructible, basically lizard creature. I suggest you read that one. It's cute. But yeah. Anywho, that is the end of today's SCP readings. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was kind of different and maybe not necessarily horror-esque, but yeah, it was a lot of fun and I definitely enjoyed doing that. So thank you all for showing up and for being so patient with me. I will try to have a video out later this week, but frankly my muse is a little dead right now. Will this be done again some other time? Maybe. We'll have to see. We'll see where the demand is, because I noticed after a while people did kind of lose interest, so it seems. So we'll have to see. I do know a couple other ASM artists that do want to do more stuff like this, like Regent, and also there are some ASM artists that do full-on SCP readings that I would recommend. Literally, you can just Google ASMR SCP and like the best ones will show up right away. There was a window cleaner in my shower. Huh. Interesting. And yeah, no problem. But anyway, guys, that is all for today. Thank you again. and I will catch you all on the flip side. Adios.
Boo.